The girl Max sent to me, presumably because he didn't know what else to do with her, was a very proper young woman, in a severely tailored gray flannel business suit and a severe white silk blouse with a neat little ascot thing at the throat. Nicely constructed, of slightly less than medium height, she had a grave oval face dominated by very serious gray-blue eyes. The mouth, although adequate in size, didn't look as if she'd ever taken advantage of its potential for laughter. A shy, pinched, reluctant little smile was the best she'd managed for me so far. Well, it wasn't exactly a laughing situation. She had a lot of fine light brown hair pinned up about her head in a ladylike Victorian manner, displaying a graceful neck. The hair was light enough that she could have become a striking little blonde without a great deal of effort. A simple rinse would have done the job. The fact that she hadn't made the effort said a lot about her. She wore very little makeup, just a touch of lipstick, and her face was pale, but that could have been the result of the awkward and distressing circumstances that had brought her to me. I noticed that her hands were quite attractive, locked in her lap as she sat facing me stiffly on a small straight chair she'd chosen in preference to the mate of the comfortable number in which I was sprawled. They were slender, shapely hands, but not too small to be useful. The nails were well cared for, but trimmed fairly short with clear, colorless polish, very discreet. No blood-red talons here. However, she'd yielded to conventional femininity in a couple of respects. Her neat black pumps, which matched the purse in her lap, had fairly high, slim heels that did nice things for her pretty ankles, and her smoky stockings were very sheer, emphasizing the pleasant shape of her legs. But, unlike most modern young ladies who are happy to display their erogenous zones to anyone who cares to look, Miss Amy Barnett still hadn't let me determine whether she was wearing pantyhose or sustained the smoothness of her nylons with more elaborate feminine engineering. So far she'd managed her narrow skirt with faultless modesty, but I would have bet a considerable amount of money on the tights. She didn't look like a girl who'd go in for frivolous, lacy garter belts and cute little bikini panties, and she certainly didn't need the support of a girdle.
"Well, after all, he is in jail, and he is my father," she said a bit defiantly, "even if I haven't seen him since I was a child."
It was a mass-produced hotel room in a mass-produced hotel near the Miami waterfront. The Marina Towers, if it matters. Never mind what I was doing there. Actually, it was done, and I'd been making arrangements to return to Washington when the phone had rung and Mac had instructed me to sit tight and expect a visitor. He'd also given me the background of the situation and apologized for dumping the job on me because I was handy, since there were personal reasons why I might find it distasteful. But personal doesn't count for much with us. If it did, there were also personal reasons, which Max seemed to have forgotten, why I didn't mind as much as I might have. "But I gather you don't approve of him," I said to the girl facing me, "even though he is your pop."
"How can I? The work he does, used to do, if you can call it work. I was terribly shocked when Mother explained it to me all those years ago. I was 7 at the time. Explained why I no longer had a daddy, why she'd had to leave him. But I understood perfectly. I mean, what else could she do when she finally learned what he'd been hiding all those years? What kind of a man he really was?"
Amy Barnett hesitated.
"But now that Mother's dead, he's my only living relative, Mr. Helm, and I felt obliged to come when I learned he was in trouble."
She shook her head quickly.
"No, that's not quite accurate. I was already trying to locate him when I heard about that."
"You've had no contact with him since your mother walked out on him and took you with her?" She didn't like the way I'd expressed that, but she decided not to make an issue of it.
Well, afterward he tried to write me from time to time, like on my birthdays. But Mother made me send his letters back unopened, so after a while he gave up. Except for the last letter that came quite recently, right after her death, that let me know how to get in touch with the government agency he worked for, if I ever needed any kind of help. Your agency. He wrote that now he was retired, he'd be traveling outside the country for a while, where he'd be hard to reach. He wanted to be sure I was taken care of, now that Mother was gone.